Panoramic stitching is a great way of getting higher resolution from your camera. So if you've got a 20 megapixel camera, for instance, and you crop the top and the bottom off your picture just so that you can get a nice panoramic letterbox shaped image, you're obviously going to have much fewer megapixels, probably around 10 megapixels, which is fine for most uses, but to print large, no way. The quality just won't be there. So this is what photographers do when they want to get higher resolution. They do a panoramic stitch. So the important thing is to get your camera level. If you're lucky enough to have a tripod like this she's got a ball at the top, you can get the level easily by just getting it level with the spirit level, looking down carefully, and then tightening it up, and you know that's level. Then you've got to get this bit level, obviously the camera itself, which is easier with a geared head. And then you just got to pan around from shot to shot like that, overlapping by 30%. So I always zoom out a little bit more than I need to as well, because otherwise if you zoom in too much, it makes the stitching a lot harder to do later on in Photoshop. So the important thing is to shoot in manual mode, because then the shutter speed and the aperture will not change as you pan around and you take all these different shots. I'm going to probably choose 5 shots for this image. And the other thing you want to do is, if you're shooting, whether it's in RAW or JPEG, if you're shooting, you need to change the white balance so that it's on a fixed temperature. I only shoot RAW images, so mine's consistently set on daylight settings, so the color temperature doesn't change as you shift through the different shots. So you've got the camera level, you've got your manual settings on your camera, you check the exposure by panning through the shot and making sure the exposure doesn't change as you pan through the shot. You've got your start point and your finish point sorted out. I figured out I'm going to take between 5 and 6 images of this shot. So once you've done all of that, then you obviously want to do the shots fairly quickly in succession. Otherwise you're going to get, one person in a red coat will appear in 4 of your images as they walk across the scene, something like that. So you've got to do it fairly quickly, but I'm not going to do it so quickly that I cause camera shake. So I've got a 2-second timer set on. So got consistent lighting, so I'm ready to go. So I'm going to take one shot there, pan around a bit, overlapping by 30%, take another shot, pan around again, until you've got the whole scene covered. And then once you've done that, make sure you have a look at the images on the screen to make sure you've got a decent exposure for all of them, that none of the highlights are burned out. And once you have, and you feel comfortable with that, then you're ready to go back into the office and put it into Photoshop. Back in the office now, I've imported the 5 images I took at St Ives into Lightroom, and I've done basic adjustments. I mean, I just clicked auto and it seemed to be a good result, so I'm quite happy with that. I increased the saturation to 35, and then I synced all the images. So if you adjust the first one and then you click on the other 4 and you shift click onto the other 4, then you can just click on the sync button, which is here, and that will actually synchronize all of the settings you did to the first one to all the 5 of the images. And then I'm just going to right click onto Edit in Open in Photoshop 2024. Right, you can see now that I've got all 5 files opened in Photoshop, and all I need to do now is click File, Automate, Photo Merge. And I always just click on Auto, but you just add the open files and click OK and let Photoshop do its thing. It's pretty easy, really. Okay, and there you can see the Photoshop's done a pretty good job of that. Looks pretty straight. So now I'm going to get the crop tool, C on the keyboard, clear any values that are in there, and I'm just going to try and find a decent crop of this now. I don't want any of this. I don't want that bloke on the beach down there. Don't want him. And so I'm going to go above him, as far left as I can. Don't want too much sky, perhaps not too much sea either. Something like that looks good. It's a shame to crop some of this lovely sky off, but I think I need a more balanced kind of image. So that looks pretty good. So I'll crop there, and now you can see we've got quite a decent image, really. And bloke in the bottom right corner, so do a bit more of a crop, take him out. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. And then it's just a case then of going through each of the images. Well, actually, let's have a look at the layers palette first. So on the layers palette you can see the 5 different layers, and you can see that Photoshop's done a good job because it's taken a clean section of each image, so there's no little areas that we need to look at. So providing it's done a good job, and I sometimes go in and check. So now I'll switch that one, the eye off that one, go in and check. So you can see the eye switched off there, and then I'm just going to look around this at about 50% to see if it's done a good job, because sometimes it misses things. If you switch it on, the eye on and off, you can see where it's done its thing. Looks pretty good. Yeah, that looks very good. There won't be any problem in the sky. No, totally fine. So check all of those, and then just go through making sure that people don't appear on or dogs running along the beach don't appear in 2 different places. So there's a postman there. It's all looking good. I think I took each picture quickly enough after the other one that there wasn't time for people to walk in between the 2 frames. Wow, the detail's pretty stunning, isn't it? This is what it's all about. So this image will be about twice the resolution of the image if I'd just cropped the top and the bottom off just one image. So after you've done all that, click on that drop down menu and flatten the image, which makes for a much smaller file. And then that's basically it. We've effectively doubled the resolution by doing a panoramic stitch. So it's a good way of getting extra detail, especially from a camera which perhaps doesn't have so many megapixels, like maybe 20 megapixels. And of course you can do it another way as well, which is called enhance. I'll do some more about that in another video. But basically you can double the image size using AI within Photoshop. And that works pretty well, but I prefer this method because it's definitely cleaner. And then with this method you've also got the ability to still do the enhance with AI as well to make an extremely large picture. So this was a fairly simple panoramic stitch to do because everything was quite a long way away from the camera. But if you've got a foreground that you want to include, that makes things a lot more difficult, because as you pan the camera around, taking the different shots, the foreground moves in a different way than the distant subject does. So for that, to do that properly, you need a nodal slider, which is something I've never bought because I just don't do enough panoramic stitching anymore. But if you want to do it really properly, you can get the foreground perfect if you use a nodal slider. So that's it, folks. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this short tutorial on panoramic stitching.